You'll never be one of us." Rebecca didn't shout it. She didn't need to. She laughed. That made it worse. The conference room overlooking downtown Dallas fell silent for exactly one heartbeat before the laughter spread around the polished walnut table. Her parents smiled into their coffee cups. Her older brother leaned back in his chair with the smug confidence of a man who had never questioned where his next dollar came from. Even her divorce attorney allowed himself the smallest grin before quickly hiding it behind a legal pad. I stayed where I was, hands folded, back straight, eyes fixed on the envelope lying beside my attorney. Heavy cream paper, dark blue wax seal, my name written across the front in neat black ink. Daniel Carter. No one had touched it. Not yet. Rebecca crossed one elegant leg over the other and brushed an invisible wrinkle from her white designer suit. She looked exactly like the woman every business magazine loved to photograph. Perfect posture, flawless smile, effortless confidence. The woman who had become the face of the Carter Foundation, the Carter Companies, and nearly every charitable gala in Texas. Looking at her now, no one would have guessed that 20 years ago we had shared instant noodles in a one-bedroom apartment with cracked windows and a broken heater. Success has a strange way of editing memories, especially for the people who didn't build it. Her father cleared his throat. "I warned you years ago," he said, looking at me instead of the judge's assistant arranging paperwork across the room. "Some people simply don't belong in certain circles." Rebecca laughed again, a softer laugh, the practiced kind. "You tried, Daniel," she said. "I'll give you that." Another pause. "But you'll never be one of us." The sentence floated across the room as gently as perfume. It wasn't loud. It wasn't cruel in the obvious way. It was calm, certain, final. The kind of sentence designed to remind everyone exactly where they believed you belonged. No one defended me. Not the accountants. Not the assistants. Not even the junior associates pretending to study their laptops while listening to every word. I understood why. Power has gravity. People naturally drift toward whoever appears to have it. For the last 10 years, that had been Rebecca. She gave interviews, accepted awards, hosted charity dinners, posed beside governors, senators, CEOs, and celebrities. I rarely attended, and when I did, I stayed quietly in the background. People assumed I preferred it that way. The truth was simpler. I had work to do, real work, the kind that never needed cameras. Across the table, my attorney, Michael Bennett, adjusted his glasses but said nothing. We'd worked together for almost a year preparing for this morning. He wasn't nervous. Neither was I. Not anymore. Fear only lives where uncertainty survives. Mine had died months ago. Outside, sunlight reflected off the skyscrapers lining the Dallas skyline. Expensive cars moved through the streets below like polished toys. Somewhere beneath that glass and steel, thousands of people were beginning ordinary workdays, unaware that one envelope sitting inside a private mediation room was about to change more lives than anyone present realized. Rebecca leaned toward her attorney. "Let's finish this," she said. "I have a board meeting in 45 minutes. Always efficient, always moving, always assuming tomorrow would look exactly like yesterday." Her attorney nodded confidently before turning toward Michael. "I believe we're ready." Michael looked at me instead, not for permission, for confirmation. I gave the slightest nod, nothing more. He reached into his leather briefcase, removed a sealed authorization letter, and placed it beside the untouched envelope. The room noticed. Conversation stopped. Even Rebecca's father frowned. "What is that?" he asked. Michael smiled politely. "A procedural requirement." Rebecca rolled her eyes. "If it's another delay tactic, spare us." "It isn't." She folded her arms. "Then open it." Michael didn't move. Instead, he looked toward the independent probate lawyer seated quietly near the end of the table, a gray-haired woman who had barely spoken since the meeting began. "Ms. Whitmore," he said calmly, "I believe it's time." For the first time all morning, every eye in the room shifted away from Rebecca, toward the envelope, toward my name written across the front, toward the woman reaching for the wax seal with steady hands. No one laughed anymore. The crack of the wax seal sounded louder than it should have. Not because the room was noisy, because nobody breathed. Margaret Whitmore slid a letter opener beneath the dark blue seal with the precision of someone who had spent 40 years handling documents capable of changing lives. The blade whispered through the paper, slow and deliberate, while every pair of eyes followed her hands. Rebecca sighed. Dramatic, she muttered, glancing at the gold watch around her wrist. Can we please move this along? No one answered. Even her attorney kept his attention on the envelope. There are moments when a room changes before anyone realizes it. You can feel it before you understand it. The air grows heavier. Voices disappear. Confidence begins looking a lot like impatience. I had experienced that feeling only a handful of times in my life. The day my father died. The day I signed the papers incorporating my first company. The day I married Rebecca. And now, Margaret unfolded the first sheet without reading it aloud. Instead, she scanned every line carefully. Once, twice. Her expression didn't change, but her eyebrows lifted ever so slightly. That tiny movement caught Rebecca's attention. What is it? She asked. Margaret didn't answer immediately. She reached into the envelope again. Another document. Then another. Each one was clipped with colored tabs, professionally organized, every signature notarized, every page bearing embossed seals that reflected the morning sunlight. Michael Bennett folded his hands, exactly as we had rehearsed. No interruptions, no explanations. Let the documents speak first. Paper has a remarkable advantage over emotion. It doesn't raise its voice. It simply exists. Rebecca laughed again, although it sounded thinner this time. I assume this is supposed to impress somebody. Her father nodded. Probably another attempt to complicate a very simple divorce. Simple. That word almost made me smile. There had never been anything simple about our marriage. People looked at Rebecca and saw success. Elegant speeches, luxury galas, magazine covers. The woman who seemed to know every influential person in Dallas. They looked at me and saw the quiet husband standing 2 steps behind every photograph. A man in dark suits who rarely spoke. A man nobody bothered introducing. Funny how easily silence gets mistaken for insignificance. Margaret adjusted her glasses. Mr. Bennett. Yes. These documents were executed 8 months ago. They were. And independently verified? 3 separate times. She nodded slowly. I see. Rebecca leaned forward. Can someone please explain what's happening? Michael remained perfectly calm. The explanation comes after authentication. Her attorney frowned. Authentication of what? Margaret finally looked up. The contents of this envelope. A flicker crossed Rebecca's face. Not fear. Not yet. Annoyance. She had built her career controlling conversations, guiding meetings, owning every room she entered. This was the first room in years where she wasn't setting the pace. Outside the glass wall, a helicopter drifted across the Dallas skyline before disappearing between towers of steel and mirrored windows. Inside, nobody moved. Margaret continued reading. Every few seconds, she compared one document against another. Occasionally, she checked a date, sometimes a signature. Once she examined an embossed seal beneath the light. The silence stretched longer than anyone expected. Humans are uncomfortable with silence. Most people rush to fill it. Rebecca did. This is ridiculous. She turned toward me for the first time since the meeting began. You actually think paperwork changes who you are? I met her eyes. I think truth usually does. She smiled, almost sympathetically. Daniel. Her voice softened enough that someone unfamiliar with her might have mistaken it for kindness. You've always confused hard work with belonging. My family accepted you because I asked them to. They tolerated you. They respected what I tried to build. But you were never one of us. The words landed gently, cleaner than insults, sharper than shouting. Across the table, her brother chuckled. I told him that on our wedding day. Her father added quietly, some doors stay closed for a reason. I looked at each of them, one by one. Strange. Not long ago those comments would have hurt. Now they felt distant, like listening to people argue about a version of my life that had already ended. Margaret placed the final document on top of the stack. She inhaled once before removing her glasses. When she finally spoke, her voice carried none of the hesitation that had filled the room minutes earlier. Mr. Bennett, everything appears to be authentic. Michael gave a single nod. Thank you. Rebecca leaned back confidently. There. She smiled toward me. So much suspense for absolutely nothing. Michael reached into his briefcase one final time. Instead of another document, he produced a small brass key attached to a leather tag. He placed it beside the opened envelope. Margaret looked at the key, then at me, then back at the documents. I'll need authorization to access the accompanying deposit records, she said. Michael answered without looking away from Rebecca. You already have it. Rebecca frowned. What deposit records? For the first time that morning, Margaret's eyes settled directly on Rebecca. The records connected to the trust. The smile disappeared from Rebecca's face. The word trust settled over the room like dust after a collapse. Rebecca blinked. "I'm sorry," she said with a nervous laugh. "What trust?" Margaret Whitmore didn't answer immediately. She lifted the first document again, reading more carefully than before, as though confirming what she already knew. "The Hawthorne Family Preservation Trust," she said at last. Rebecca frowned. "I've never heard of it. I wouldn't expect you to have." The sentence came from Margaret, not me. For the first time that morning, uncertainty replaced confidence on Rebecca's face. She turned toward her attorney. "David." He looked just as confused. "I wasn't informed of any trust." Michael Bennett remained silent. He had warned me years earlier that the strongest arguments were rarely spoken. They were documented, signed, witnessed, filed. Silence gives paperwork room to breathe. Rebecca looked at me. "What is this?" I didn't answer. Not because I wanted to be dramatic. Because this wasn't my story to tell anymore. It belonged to the documents. Funny how people spend years ignoring your voice, only to demand explanations the moment paper begins speaking for you. Margaret continued. "This trust predates your marriage by nearly 6 years." Rebecca's father leaned forward. "That's impossible." Margaret glanced toward him. "It isn't." She turned another page. "The trust has remained active through multiple amendments, annual reviews, and independent audits." Every word sounded ordinary, yet every sentence pulled another brick from the foundation beneath Rebecca's certainty. She shook her head. "There must be some mistake." Michael finally spoke. "There isn't." His voice remained calm, measured, professional. "We verified every filing before today's meeting." Rebecca stared at him. "Why wasn't this disclosed during discovery?" "Because no request was made that legally required disclosure." David's expression hardened. "I find that difficult to believe." Michael slid a thin folder across the table. "The applicable statutes are highlighted." David opened it. His confidence faded before he reached the second page. No argument followed. Just another silence. Outside, clouds drifted across the Texas sky, dimming the afternoon sunlight that had flooded the conference room only minutes before. The shadows inside the room grew longer. I watched Rebecca studying the documents without understanding them. She wasn't a lawyer. She wasn't supposed to. For years, she had trusted other people to handle details. Lawyers, accountants, financial advisors, assistants. She had become exceptionally good at standing on finished stages. She had never enjoyed watching them being built. That wasn't criticism. It was simply true. 22 years earlier, things had looked very different. Neither of us had anything. Our first apartment sat above an old hardware store on the edge of Fort Worth. The pipes rattled every winter. The refrigerator buzzed loud enough to wake us at night. We owned mismatched furniture rescued from garage sales, and our dining table was nothing more than a sheet of plywood balanced across 2 filing cabinets. Rebecca used to laugh about it. Not at me, with me. Back then, she believed struggle was temporary. So did I. Every evening after work, I'd spread blueprints across that homemade table while she practiced presentations for graduate school. She dreamed out loud. I listened. I calculated costs, deadlines, permits, loans. She wanted a better future. I wanted to build one sturdy enough that she would never have to worry again. Looking back, I realized we measured success differently from the beginning. Rebecca measured what people could see. I measured what could survive after everyone stopped looking. Neither approach was wrong, until they started competing. Margaret closed one folder and opened another. The trust also references controlling interests in several privately held entities. Rebecca interrupted. "Daniel doesn't own controlling interests." She said it instinctively, confidently, as if repeating something she believed for years made it permanently true. Margaret didn't argue. She simply turned the next page. "The ownership records indicate otherwise." Rebecca's brother laughed once. A short, forced sound. "No." He looked around the room, waiting for someone else to laugh with him. Nobody did. His smile disappeared. Rebecca slowly turned toward me. There was no anger in her eyes now, only confusion, as though she had suddenly realized there were entire chapters of my life she had never bothered to read. I met her gaze. For a brief second, I almost remembered the young woman who used to eat cold pizza with me on the apartment floor while we planned impossible dreams. Then the memory passed. Margaret rested her hand on the final folder. There is one remaining document, she said quietly. It explains why Mr. Carter's name appears on every controlling instrument. She paused. And why this divorce cannot proceed under the assumptions presented this morning. Some people think betrayal begins with a lie. They're wrong. Most betrayals begin with an assumption. Rebecca assumed she knew everything about me because she had lived beside me for 20 years. She knew what time I woke up, how I took my coffee, which shoulder stiffened when it rained. She knew the scar on my left hand came from an old construction accident. She knew I hated expensive watches and preferred driving the same pickup truck long after I could afford something better. She knew my habits. She never bothered learning my decisions. Those are two very different things. Margaret rested her fingertips on the final folder, but didn't open it. There is a sequence to these records, she said. If we skip ahead, none of the supporting documents will make sense. Rebecca exhaled impatiently. I don't need a history lesson. No, Margaret replied evenly. But the law does. That answer silenced the room again. Legal truth has an irritating habit of ignoring personal impatience. David, Rebecca's attorney, finally spoke. If these documents concern premarital assets, we'll review them. However, they cannot change the equitable division of property acquired during the marriage. Michael nodded politely. Ordinarily, I'd agree. Ordinarily. One word. Enough to make David stop talking. Margaret opened another folder. This matter is not ordinary. I watched Rebecca's expression harden. She was searching for confidence, reaching for the familiar certainty that had carried her through countless negotiations and board meetings. She couldn't find it, because confidence depends on understanding the battlefield. She had just discovered she wasn't standing on the battlefield she thought she was. 20 years earlier, things had looked much simpler. Rebecca met me during our final semester at the University of Texas. I studied civil engineering. She studied business administration. She loved presentations. I loved solving problems. She could walk into a crowded room and make strangers feel like old friends within minutes. I was the man who stayed after everyone left, making sure the chairs were stacked and the lights were turned off. Opposites attract. At least, that's what people say. Maybe they're right. Or maybe opposites simply admire in each other what they don't naturally possess. She used to tell people I made her feel safe. Not rich. Not powerful. Safe. At 22, that felt like enough. After graduation, we rented the cheapest apartment we could find and began building our lives one paycheck at a time. She worked for a marketing agency. I accepted engineering projects no one else wanted. Industrial sites, aging bridges, warehouses scheduled for demolition. The jobs weren't glamorous. They paid the bills. Eventually, every Friday night, Rebecca would spread restaurant brochures across our tiny kitchen table. When we're successful, she'd say with a grin, we're eating here. Sometimes it was a steakhouse. Sometimes an Italian place downtown. Once it was a rooftop restaurant where dinner cost more than our monthly grocery budget. We laughed every time. Those dreams didn't feel impossible, just distant. Whenever she fell asleep on the couch after studying late into the night, I'd quietly gather my blueprints and keep working until sunrise. Not because anyone asked me to, because I believe the strongest promises are the ones spoken through effort. Years passed that way. Small apartment, long hours, secondhand furniture, shared dreams. Then opportunities arrived. Not suddenly, never suddenly. People love telling stories about overnight success. I've never met anyone who achieved it overnight. Our life changed inch by inch. One completed project led to another. One recommendation became three. One investor introduced another. Every contract made the next conversation slightly easier. Meanwhile, Rebecca's career accelerated just as quickly. She became an exceptional executive. Confident, charismatic, brilliant with people. The face of every organization she joined. I was proud of her. Truly, success looks beautiful when two people are walking toward it together. The danger comes when one person starts believing they reached the destination alone. Back in the conference room, Margaret slid a certified copy across the table toward David. Please examine page 14. He adjusted his glasses. His eyes moved slowly across the document, then stopped. He looked back. Read it again. His face changed. Not dramatically, just enough. Lawyers spend their careers hiding emotion. Even they have limits. Rebecca noticed immediately. What is it? David didn't answer. She asked again. David. He finally looked at her. His voice had lost every trace of confidence. This. He swallowed. Changes the ownership timeline. Rebecca frowned. I don't understand. No, he admitted quietly. I don't think you do. For the first time since our marriage began unraveling, I saw genuine uncertainty in her eyes. Not anger, not arrogance, not disappointment. Confusion. The kind that comes from realizing you've spent years reading only the cover of a book while believing you knew the entire story. And Margaret still hadn't opened the final document. The first time Rebecca said, "You don't really fit in here," she smiled when she said it. She treated it like a joke. I laughed with her. Looking back, I wish I hadn't. Some jokes aren't meant to make you laugh. They're meant to measure how much disrespect you'll tolerate before noticing it. Margaret closed the certified ownership records and carefully aligned every document into a neat stack. Nobody reached for them. Nobody interrupted. Even Rebecca's father, who had spent the morning speaking with absolute certainty, remained unusually quiet. David continued reading page 14, then page 15. Then he flipped back to page 14 again. Lawyers rarely reread good news. Rebecca noticed. What does it say? He didn't answer. Instead, he removed his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. I need another minute. That frightened her more than any explanation could have. Confidence disappears in layers. First comes curiosity, then doubt, then silence. Rebecca had already reached the third stage. She turned toward me again. Daniel. This time she didn't sound angry. She sounded as though she expected me to rescue her from a conversation she no longer understood. For years, I would have. Not anymore. There was a time when protecting Rebecca felt as natural as breathing. If someone criticized her, I defended her. If she doubted herself, I reminded her what she was capable of. When opportunities appeared, I stepped aside so she could stand in the spotlight. None of those choices were sacrifices to me. They were investments. You don't keep score when you're building a life with someone you love. At least, you shouldn't. The trouble begins when only one person remembers who made the deposits. Everything changed after Rebecca accepted the executive position at Hawthorne Strategic Holdings. The promotion doubled her salary. Within 3 years, her face appeared in business journals throughout Texas. She was brilliant. Nobody could deny that. She understood people. She could persuade investors, command boardrooms, calm nervous clients. She belonged in front of cameras. I never did. As her career expanded, so did the invitations. Private charity dinners, country clubs, political fundraisers, luxury galas held beneath crystal chandeliers where conversations revolved around legacy, influence, and old family names. At first, we attended together. She would squeeze my hand beneath the table whenever she noticed I felt uncomfortable. "We're in this together," she'd whisper. I believed her. Eventually, those whispers stopped. The introductions changed too. Instead of saying, "This is my husband, Daniel," she began saying, "This is Daniel." Just Daniel. No explanation. No context. People assumed I worked somewhere beneath her. Sometimes they thought I managed one of her construction vendors. Once, someone asked whether I had been hired to oversee parking for a charity event. Rebecca laughed. "So easy to misunderstand him," she said. She never corrected them. Not once. Small moments rarely destroy relationships. They simply prepare the ground. One unnoticed insult becomes another. One uncomfortable dinner becomes 10. One apology never spoken slowly turns into permanent silence. Soon, I started declining invitations. Rebecca told people I disliked social events. The truth was more complicated. I didn't mind the events. I minded becoming invisible at them. Her parents loved those circles, especially her father. Harold Whitmore believed family reputation mattered more than character. He measured men by surnames, golf club memberships, and who invited them to Christmas parties. According to his rules, I had failed before introducing myself. He rarely insulted me directly. He preferred polished sentences. "You've done well for yourself. You've been fortunate. You should appreciate the opportunities Rebecca's family opened for you." Every compliment contained a reminder. Every reminder carried the same message. You are here because of us, never because of yourself. I stopped arguing years ago. You cannot reason someone out of a conclusion that protects their pride. Back in the conference room, Margaret reached for the final folder. The thickest one yet. Dark navy cover. Gold lettering. No labels beyond a single reference number. Rebecca stared at it. "What is in there?" Margaret answered honestly. "The document that connects every other document you've reviewed today." David looked up immediately. I haven't seen that reference before. You wouldn't have, Michael replied. It was never filed with the divorce disclosures. Rebecca's heartbeat seemed almost visible now. She folded and unfolded her hands. A habit she had whenever something escaped her control. For the first time in 20 years, she wasn't trying to win an argument. She was trying to understand the man sitting across from her. The man she had reduced to a quiet husband. The man she believed had spent his entire life following her. Margaret rested her hand on the navy folder. There is one signature inside, she said softly. Everything you've read today exists because of that signature. Then she opened it. The most important signature in the room wasn't at the bottom of the page. It was the one everyone had overlooked for years. Margaret Whitmore opened the navy folder with deliberate care. Inside were only 3 documents. No thick stack, no complicated binders, just 3 pages. Sometimes the smallest files carry the heaviest weight. She lifted the first page. A declaration of beneficial ownership, she said. David reached for a copy before she had finished speaking. Rebecca watched him instead of the paper. She had learned long ago that lawyers often reveal the truth before they explain it. His shoulders stiffened. His breathing slowed. His confidence evaporated one sentence at a time. What is it? She asked again. He didn't answer. Not because he wanted to hide it. Because he was still trying to understand it himself. Margaret continued. This declaration establishes that all voting interests assigned to the Hawthorne Family Preservation Trust are exercised solely under the written authority of Daniel Carter. Silence. Not ordinary silence. The kind that forces people to hear their own thoughts. Rebecca blinked. I don't know what that means. I believe you, Margaret replied. It means the trust could not make a major decision without Mr. Carter's authorization. Rebecca laughed once. A nervous sound. That's impossible. Her father finally spoke. Our family has controlled Hawthorne interests for decades. Margaret looked at him with quiet professionalism. Your family managed them. She paused. The controlling authority is something else. Harold Whitmore frowned. There must be an error. There isn't. Michael slid another certified record across the table. The ownership chain has been independently verified. David compared both documents side by side. Then a third. Every page told the same story. Different dates, different witnesses, different filings. One conclusion. The signatures matched. The legal authority matched. Everything matched. Rebecca stared at me. No. She whispered it more to herself than anyone else. No, you would have told me. Would I? I asked myself that question many times over the last year. The answer was never simple. There had been opportunities. Quiet evenings. Long drives. Vacations where we barely spoke. Moments when I almost explained everything. But every time I imagined the conversation, I realized something. You cannot reveal your deepest responsibilities to someone who has already decided they know your entire worth. They won't hear the truth. They'll reshape it into whatever confirms what they already believe. So I waited. Not for revenge. For certainty. Years earlier, when Hawthorne's original founder passed away, a complicated restructuring had followed. Law firms, financial institutions, independent trustees, months of confidential meetings. The founder had believed that concentrated wealth survived only when separated from public attention. His instructions reflected that philosophy. Operational leadership would remain visible. Ultimate authority would remain protected, hidden, insulated from politics, family pressure, and public influence. I never sought that responsibility. It found me. Accepting it meant accepting permanent silence. No interviews, no public recognition, no explanations, only decisions. At first, Rebecca understood my preference for privacy. She even admired it. Later, she interpreted it as weakness. People often confuse those two things. They assume the loudest voice belongs to the strongest person. Experience has taught me otherwise. The strongest foundations are buried beneath the ground. Nobody applauds concrete until the building stays standing. Margaret lifted the second document. This amendment was executed 8 months ago. Rebecca looked confused. 8 months. Then her eyes widened. That was before I filed for divorce. Correct. And before any marital litigation began. Michael nodded once. Every action complied with existing legal obligations. David closed the folder slowly. He no longer looked like a lawyer preparing to negotiate. He looked like a man recalculating an entire case. Rebecca searched his face. Say something. He hesitated. Finally, he spoke. I don't believe the assumptions underlying our settlement proposal are still valid. Her expression froze. My settlement? He looked at her with genuine sympathy. The proposal assumed you and Daniel jointly controlled the relevant interests. Another pause. It now appears. He stopped. No lawyer enjoys delivering devastating news to a client. It now appears that assumption was incorrect. Rebecca slowly turned toward me. For the first time since we met in college, she wasn't looking at me as her husband. She wasn't looking at me as the quiet man who stood behind her at charity galas. She wasn't looking at me as someone who didn't belong. She was looking at a stranger whose life had continued unfolding in ways she had never imagined. Margaret placed the third and final document in the center of the table. There is only one matter left to address, she said. The reason Mr. Carter was chosen in the first place. Every eye followed her hand as she unfolded the final page. Character. Margaret Whitmore let the single word remain in the air before she continued. It wasn't wealth that determined the successor. It wasn't bloodline. It wasn't marriage. It was character. No one moved. The final document lay open beneath the conference room lights, its cream-colored pages covered with signatures, legal certifications, and handwritten notes from nearly 15 years earlier. Margaret adjusted her glasses. This document records the founder's final selection process. Rebecca looked bewildered. What selection? Margaret glanced toward me. The selection of the individual entrusted with permanent voting authority over the Hawthorne Family Preservation Trust. Rebecca's father shook his head. This is absurd. Our family built Hawthorne. Margaret answered calmly. Your family expanded it. The founder established it. And according to his written instructions, stewardship was never intended to become hereditary. Harold's jaw tightened. That makes no sense. It doesn't have to. It only has to be legally enforceable. David lowered his eyes back to the page. He wasn't arguing anymore. He was learning. Sometimes lawyers stop being advocates and become students. This was one of those moments. Margaret continued reading. The founder believed inherited power eventually becomes entitlement. He instructed the trustees to identify an individual who repeatedly demonstrated integrity when no recognition was offered. Rebecca whispered almost to herself. Integrity. Margaret nodded. The interviews began 18 years ago. Rebecca stared. Interviews. You never knew they were interviews. Neither did I. Not at first. Looking back, the signs seem obvious. At 26, I was managing difficult infrastructure projects across Texas. Every few months someone new would appear. A consultant, an investor, a retired engineer asking unusual questions, a developer requesting impossible deadlines, an elderly man pretending to need advice about construction permits. I assumed they were clients. Most weren't. Every decision I made was quietly recorded. Not my profits, not my reputation, my judgment. Years later, I finally learned the truth. The Hawthorne trustees had been watching dozens of candidates. Business owners, executives, attorneys, financial managers, people with extraordinary resumes. Many were wealthier than me. Most were better connected. Some came from famous families. None of that mattered. The founder had written something unusual inside his personal instructions. Margaret read the handwritten paragraph aloud. Choose the person who protects people before protecting status. Choose the one who solves problems without demanding applause. If no such person exists inside my family, look outside it. Silence. Rebecca slowly lowered her eyes. For the first time all morning, she wasn't looking at documents. She was looking at memories. I recognized the expression. People don't suddenly remember new events. They suddenly understand old ones. I remembered receiving a phone call nearly 15 years ago. An invitation to lunch from a retired businessman named Charles Hawthorne. At least, that's how he introduced himself. We met at a quiet diner instead of an expensive restaurant. He wore ordinary clothes, drove an old sedan, asked surprisingly simple questions. Would I compromise safety to save money? Would I fire loyal employees during a downturn if it protected investors? Could success survive without honesty? At the time, I assumed he was eccentric. Nothing more. When lunch ended, he shook my hand. Keep building things that last, he said. I never saw him again. 6 months later, I learned he had died. Only years afterward did I discover who he truly was. Rebecca's father suddenly leaned across the table. This can't be legal. Margaret didn't even look surprised. It has been challenged twice. And upheld twice. David nodded reluctantly. The citations are attached. Harold reached for the papers himself. His hands weren't steady anymore. Rebecca remained perfectly still. Daniel, her voice barely carried across the room. You knew? Yes. For how long? I answered honestly. Long enough to understand it wasn't something I could explain. She stared at me. You should have trusted me. The words hurt more than I expected. Not because they were cruel, because they arrived years too late. I wanted to, I said quietly. But somewhere along the way, you stopped believing I was capable of carrying responsibilities you couldn't see. Her eyes filled with emotion. Not tears. Recognition. There is a difference. Tears often come from pain. Recognition comes from truth. Margaret gathered the final documents into a single stack. One last matter remains. Everyone looked toward her. The trust contains a succession clause. David frowned. I don't remember seeing one. You haven't. It was sealed until today's proceedings. Rebecca looked confused again. What succession clause? Margaret rested her hand on the final sealed attachment. The clause that determines who keeps everything after the divorce becomes final. The room didn't explode. It unraveled. Margaret broke the seal on the final attachment and unfolded a single page that looked almost ordinary. One page, one signature, one clause. After everything that had been said, it seemed impossible that a single sheet of paper could carry any more weight. I knew better. The quietest documents often leave the deepest scars. Margaret looked around the table before reading. This is the succession provision executed by the trustees and confirmed under the founder's final directive. No one interrupted. Even Rebecca's father sat motionless. His hands, once folded with effortless confidence, now gripped the edge of the table. Margaret continued. In the event that the appointed steward's lawful spouse voluntarily dissolves the marriage without evidence of fraud, coercion, or misconduct by the steward. She paused. All discretionary appointments associated with the family trust shall remain exclusively under the steward's authority. David nodded slowly. So far, that's consistent. Margaret turned the page. There is an additional paragraph. Rebecca whispered, "Read it." Margaret did. If any individual has represented themselves publicly as exercising authority they did not legally possess, the trustees shall immediately correct all governance records and notify every affiliated board, institution, and beneficiary of the true chain of authority. Silence. Real silence. The kind that arrives after certainty dies. Rebecca stared blankly. I don't. She stopped. Her eyes drifted toward the framed awards hanging on the conference room wall. Then toward Michael. Then toward me. What does that mean? David answered before anyone else could. His voice was careful. It means the trustees are required to update every organization connected to the trust. Rebecca frowned. My board? Yes. The foundation? Yes. The advisory council? Yes. She swallowed. The charitable initiatives? David looked down again. All of them. Nobody enjoyed saying it. Least of all him. Rebecca slowly leaned back in her chair. Every title she had worn, every introduction she had accepted, every event where she had been described as the family's ultimate decision-maker. Each memory seemed to lose another layer of certainty. Her father suddenly stood. This is outrageous. Margaret remained perfectly composed. It is contractual. I don't care what it is. You will. Michael's reply was almost gentle. Because every institution represented here signed acceptance agreements years ago. Harold looked toward David. Challenge it. David didn't move. I can't. Why not? Because. He exhaled slowly. It's enforceable. The words landed harder than any accusation. Rebecca covered her mouth. No, this can't be happening. I watched her carefully. Not with satisfaction. Not with anger. Only with the strange distance that comes when you realize the life you once fought to protect has already slipped into the past. There was a version of me that would have reached across the table, taken her hand, told her everything would be all right. That version no longer existed. Not because she destroyed him, because time had quietly replaced him with someone who finally understood the cost of remaining invisible. Margaret gathered the papers. There is one administrative matter remaining. Rebecca looked up weakly. What now? The trustees anticipated today's proceedings. She reached into another envelope and removed several sealed notification letters. Each bore the logo of a different institution. Banks, corporate boards, charitable foundations, independent auditors. They've already been prepared? Rebecca asked. Yes. They will be delivered immediately following today's conclusion. Harold's face turned pale. So every organization will know? Margaret nodded. That is the trustee's legal obligation. Nobody spoke. Outside, the afternoon sun slipped behind a bank of clouds, casting long gray reflections across the glass towers beyond the conference room. Inside, the balance of the room had shifted completely. Hours earlier, every conversation had revolved around what I would lose. Now no one was asking about me. They were trying to calculate what Rebecca and her family had never actually possessed. Rebecca finally looked directly into my eyes. There was no laughter left, no superiority, only one quiet question. Why didn't you ever tell me who you really were? I held her gaze for a long moment before answering. Because I wanted you to love the man, not the authority attached to his name. No one said another word. Margaret closed the final folder. The legal record is complete, she said. The only remaining matter. She looked toward the judge's assistant waiting quietly by the door. Is the court's acknowledgement of the amended settlement, now that the true ownership and governance records have been established. People think victory is the moment your opponent loses. They're wrong. Real victory arrives when you no longer need them to lose in order to walk away in peace. The judge's assistant stepped forward, collecting the amended settlement documents one careful page at a time. No one objected. There was nothing left to object to. Facts have a way of ending arguments that pride begins. Margaret Whitmore closed the final folder and fastened the brass clasp. All supporting records have been verified, she said. The trustees will proceed with the required notifications immediately following today's adjournment. Her work was finished. So was mine. Rebecca remained seated. The woman who had entered the room radiating certainty now stared at the polished conference table as though it belonged to someone else. Perhaps it always had. Her father looked 20 years older than he had that morning. His shoulders had collapsed inward. His voice, once full of effortless authority, barely rose above a whisper. Daniel. It was the first time he had spoken my name without judgment attached to it. I misjudged you. I looked at him for a moment. Then I nodded. There wasn't much else to say. An apology offered after the truth is discovered doesn't erase the years before it. Still, acknowledging the truth is better than denying it forever. Rebecca slowly stood. She walked around the conference table until only a few feet separated us. For a long time, neither of us spoke. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was honest. I kept thinking about something, she finally said. Our first apartment. I smiled faintly. The plywood table. She nodded. You stayed awake every night working. I thought you were just trying to earn more money. I never asked what you were really building. No, I answered softly. You never did. A tear slipped down her cheek. She didn't wipe it away. I spent years believing success changed me. She looked down at the floor. But maybe it only revealed me. I didn't answer. Some realizations deserve silence more than reassurance. She looked back into my eyes. I was wrong. 3 simple words. Words I had imagined hearing countless times. Strangely, they no longer carried the weight I once believed they would. Forgiveness and reconciliation are not the same thing. You can offer one without promising the other. Rebecca took a slow breath. If I had known, I gently shook my head. No, she frowned. No, if you needed to know my title before respecting me, then you never really respected me. The sentence wasn't meant to hurt her. It was simply the truth. She closed her eyes. I could almost see every memory rearranging itself behind them. Every dinner, every introduction, every joke she failed to correct, every moment she allowed others to diminish the man standing beside her. Not because she hated me, because, little by little, she had begun believing them. That was the tragedy, not the divorce, not the documents, the quiet erosion of respect. Michael approached with my coat. Everything's ready. I thanked him. Margaret extended her hand. It has been an honor representing the trust. The honor was mine. She smiled politely before leaving the room with the remaining documents. David quietly packed his briefcase. He stopped beside me. I've practiced law for 28 years. I've never seen a case unfold quite like this. Neither have I admitted. He offered a respectful nod before walking away. One by one, everyone left. Rebecca remained standing near the window overlooking the Dallas skyline. Without the conversations, the room felt enormous. Peaceful, almost empty. I picked up the envelope that had started everything. The wax seal was broken now, its purpose fulfilled. Rebecca glanced toward it, then toward me. You really were one of us all along. I smiled, not because she had finally understood, because I no longer needed her to. I slipped the envelope into my briefcase and walked toward the door. Just before leaving, I turned back one last time. I was never trying to become one of you. The room fell silent again. I was simply waiting for the truth to introduce me. Then I walked out without looking back. Some people inherit power. Some people chase it. But the strongest kind never has to announce itself. It waits, quietly, until the right moment. Because in the end, belonging is never decided by the people who laugh across the table. It is decided by the character you carry when no one believes your name belongs on the envelope.